Hey takers, long time no pod, Mac Disfatt Bidge here. Hope you are having a fan-tipstick summer. I am one of the tippers. The other tippers are still doing their little summer vacation. We've had a very slammed, busy summer, but we are going to get together and give you our full tips. But for now, you just got me with the solo tip, this quickie tip, girthy tip, micro tip. I don't know what we're going to call these, but we're going to have some more coming at you. Just one tipper getting on here talking about a very niche kind of fantasy football topic for you. So today I'm going to be discussing 5 QBs for Dynasty that you can trade for on the cheap, yard sale, bargain bin, what have you. Hopefully, some league mates, they have like 3 QBs, and you might be only having one that you can only start. And then the bye weeks are coming, so you got to scout out ahead. You might want to get a QB now instead of banking on waivers. You could do that route too. Hopefully, one of these quarterbacks like Brock Purdy shows up this year. I'm not banking on it though, so that's why I did a little research, looked into some bye weeks to try to find a good amount, a handful of QBs that can help you out during this tough time with bye weeks this year. Let's get into these QBs.
Perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip, just for a second, just to see how it feels.
So, like I said, I looked in ahead of bye weeks and stuff. Here are 5 QBs. You might be able to find some others that are available. Check your league mates, see how many they got, see what they need help with. Maybe they need an extra running back, and you got a Devin Singletary type level guy that you can part ways with. Or you got a wide receiver that needs to fill in for a bye week that they have 3 wide receivers on bye that week. Look ahead. Look at these teams that are going to be stacked on the bye week. I'll get into that right now. Week 13 is the big one here. You're going to be going into your playoffs soon after that. So this one's a crucial week. You got Ravens, Bills, Bears, Raiders, Vikings, and Giants all on bye. So there's a good chance that one of you takers out there like me and only have like a Jalen Hurts on your team, and then he's going to be on bye week on week 10. All right. So I need somebody for week 10. But week 13, you might have Josh Allen and Daniel Jones as your backup. Now they're both on bye. You're screwed that week. So don't just give up the week. So, like I said, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Justin Fields, Jimmy G on bye. Oh, man, you're screwed. If you have Jimmy G as your starter, you should be tanking. All right. So go ahead and give up this week on week 13. Then you might have Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones there as well. So that's a week, like I said, playoff push. It might be important to you, so plan ahead. Week 10, Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, and Eagles. So you got Mahomes, Tua, Jalen Hurts, and Stafford as a super flex second QB level. You might need a backup then as well. So you might want to get one of these guys if you can. That's much harder. So I'm really just focusing on single QB dynasty leagues right here. And then week 9, Broncos, Lions, Jaguars, and the 49ers. I don't know who's going to be the starter for the 49ers. I don't even think Kyle Shanahan knows who he's starting, and he's just talking. I don't trust anything that comes out of that camp. So I'm not even going to bother with that. But Russell Wilson, they pay him the money. They're going to start him. So if you have him, you might need somebody to fill in and buy. Jared Goff, he's going to have a great year. I'm already calling it. We'll get into that some other time. And Trevor Lawrence. So if you have those quarterbacks are all starters, QB2 type level as well. So you need somebody to fill in. Listen up here. Don't bank on going on waivers during the season to pick up somebody who is that Brock Purdy type. Gardner Minshew might start if Anthony Richardson isn't getting it done. Who knows? I wouldn't bank on that. That's why I like to prepare ahead. If you got some capital, some cheap stuff to give out, this is for you. Don't wait until that week and a league mate sees, oh, in 2 weeks he doesn't have a QB, so that's why he wants it. I'm going to jack the price up. Get ahead of it now. So 5 QBs to trade for on the cheap. Sam Howell, my number 5 QB from the Washington Commanders. I keep getting that wrong. Bye week 14 for Sam Howell. So it's a wild card play here, guys. Not gonna lie to you, you takers out there. Ron Rivera, unpredictable head coach, on the hot seat. He doesn't have a contract. Another year on his contract after this season. So Eric Bieniemy is also taking some heat with his offense coordinating style with some players and stuff, and Ron Rivera throwing shade at him. Who knows what's going to happen? They're saying that Brissett could be a starter. Don't sleep on him. Quotes from Ron Rivera there. I I am sleeping on Brissett. You got to find out what Hal can do. So I can see him starting. This is why he's number 5 though, because it is risky. It's kind of like you're basically waiting on a waiver pickup, which could be Brissett at this time. Who knows? But I'm willing to take the chance on Sam Howell. I'm not buying into a QB competition. I think they're just making the young guy work. I've seen him go in drafts that rookie season of his, like in the 4th, 5th round on Dynasty drafts, and he was an actual 5th round pick in the draft. I think he should have gone higher. So I would be willing to part ways with the 3rd round, wide receiver 3. If you're really needing a QB and like this is the only one available, maybe like a Brandon Cooks type level wide receiver, but he's a pretty important flex bye week filler as well as wide receivers. So I'd rather not, but he only started one game last year, and that was against Dallas, 11 for 19 for 169 yards. They could have drafted another quarterback this past season, but they didn't. I think they're going to let him work. It's a decent chance anyway. Uh, if you look at his stats from North Carolina and watch some highlight tape, he's willing to roll out. He's willing to take hits. He runs. He rushed for 828 yards his junior year and had 11 touchdowns on the ground. He isn't afraid to take those hits and he can make some plays. I like him. He has a good supporting staff around him. Plus, he threw for over 3,000 yards each of his 3 years there, an average 30 passing touchdowns each of those seasons. Good wide receiver core in Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. Antonio Gibson out of the backfield and Brian Robinson, a pretty decent running back this year. Good supporting cast. So I like him. I like to get him as a bye week filler or as a QB2 and see what happens. I'm willing to take the bet. Uh, week 13, so that big bye week, he's facing Miami, and that's the beginning of December. So that's when they're going to get Ramsey back to. Uh, not too not too eager to start against Fangio's defense. I think he's always had a top 15 defense, so it's not the best matchup. But week 9 is at New England and week 10 is at Seattle. It's not the best, but that's why he's number 5 on my list here. But 2 out of those 3 teams are going to put up points, so Washington's going to have to put up some points as well. I'll let you takers figure out which team I'm talking about. Number 4 here, Kenny Pickett of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They drafted him in the 1st round. He had a rough go at it first. Like this is kind of ugly, but this is why he's number 4. But you look at the splits last year. So before week 9, which was their bye, he was scoring 12.5 fantasy points per game. It was brutal. Turned over the ball a lot. 8 picks in the 5 games that he started. But he only had 1 pick in the 8 games after the bye week. So they made the adjustments. I think they slowed it down with Matt Canada at OC, but he averaged 14 fantasy points per game after the bye week. It's not great. Not great, Bob. But with a 1st round draft capital and all he has is Mitch Trubisky to compete with, I, I like my chances. He has some rushing upside too. They bolstered the offensive line, decent wide receivers. He has the stud tight end, Pat Fryermuth, Najee Harris, and Jalen Warren in the backfield. I like what they can do this year, and I'm willing to take a bet on Pickett to do well this season and have a more improved sophomore year. Week 13, Pittsburgh has Arizona. That's a sweet matchup. I don't know if you takers have seen the videos out there, but they're going to be like the Denver Broncos this year, but they're going to let up a lot of points instead. Week 10, Green Bay. it's all home games for Pittsburgh with these bye weeks that we're trying to fill here. So Green Bay, not intimidating defense. Week 9, though, is Tennessee. I'm not expecting a ton of points to be scored there. So maybe I would pivot and try to target Sam Howell instead, or one of the other quarterbacks I get to. And number 3 takers, Baker Mayfield of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I have more faith than most in him as a QB. It's more of a gut feeling than following the stats. Uh, one that supports me though, on my opinion of him with his stats, is his initial 3 seasons. He averaged 25 passing touchdowns with an average of 3,700 yards. Nasty Cleveland weather, decent weapons with Jarvis Landry and OBJ. Sort of OBJ was pretty much a bust when he joined there. So they also had terrible coaches. Now he has Dave Canales, offense coordinator. Now he's coming down from Seattle. He was there for 13 seasons as the QB coach, and he was with the passing game coordination as well. I'm not saying he's going to have a Geno Smith type year, but I think this guy is the right man for the job to salvage what's left of Baker's career. Baker is looking for another contract here, so he needs to produce. I don't think Kyle Trask is much of a threat. I know it's not good reports coming out of there, but he has decent weapons and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and we all slept on Metcalf and Lockett last year with Geno Smith. So let's see what can happen here. Plus, it's a favorable division. There's going to be some scoring like there always is in this division. I'm willing to give up a third round, maybe a second in like a super flex league to get him, and a wide receiver, flex play level type of guy. Devin Singletary, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, somebody that's coming off of injury. We're not too sure, but somebody's willing to take a shot. Again, scout out these managers, see what needs they have, and see if you can meet their needs like Ryan's mom meets mine. So week 9, he is at Houston. They're pretty good against quarterbacks, so I don't like that much. And then week 10 is Tennessee. It's gonna be tough. And then week 13 versus Carolina. I'm not really looking at these matchups as like, oh, that's what I want. I'm just thinking this quarterback's gonna have a decent year and he'll be better than average this year. Number 2 here is Aaron Rodgers. Now, this one's a bit of an exception. You can probably trade for him after the rough part of their schedule to open up the year. All right. He had a lackluster season last year coming off his back to back MVP awards, but he's taken pay cuts. He's been a top 10 QB for the majority of his career. All right. He had a bad season last year. Okay. He can bounce back. If I'm going to bet on anybody to bounce back, it's him after a really down year over Russell Wilson, that's for sure. So managers with Rodgers are looking to get out. They don't want to be, like me with Tom Brady and let him walk out in retirement without getting a little bit of something for him. So, or the manager already acquired him during this offseason to go for their championship run. So in that case, you're probably not going to get him because you don't want to spend too much. You get 1, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. Take a look at the league mate that has Aaron Rodgers and see who they're short with and try to trade that player or a third rounds pick. I wouldn't go more than that. But maybe like a Jacoby Myers type level wide receiver, or maybe they need a handcuff running back that you have. Try to work out a deal that way. Throw in that handcuff plus a pick. Week 9 is the Chargers. Going to be a high scoring game. Their defense is not that great. Sweet. Love that matchup. Week 10 at Las Vegas. I don't really have to say much on that, do I? Week 13 is home versus Atlanta, who is going to have like one of the worst defenses this year. Loving that schedule. Get Aaron Rodgers to fill in for week 13. And my number 1 trade target for this yard sale, QB, dumpster diving, bargain bin hunting, Craigslist sale. It's going to surprise some of you, especially you've been listening since the beginning of Just a Tip, a fantasy football podcast, which you can rate and review on Apple and Spotify and watch us there on Spotify. Leave a review, answer a poll question there. Hit us up on all the socials, just a tip FFP, and follow us on subscribe on YouTube and like the video if you could. Speaking of the yard sale theme, you ever go to a yard sale and you see like a car over there that it's kind of been through a bit. It's not brand new, but it's not too old right now. It looks like it might have just got a new coat of paint at Mako or something. It could be a decent ride, but it could occasionally break down on you as well. That's right. I'm talking about Derek Carr. If you couldn't tell by my little hints there, he's just your typical streaming quarterback. Nobody is talking about him at all. Not anybody that I'm listening to or reading. Nobody's talking about him right now, but they will be during the season as a streamer. So you got my tip pretty early here, and you bet your sweet tip. These analysts will be talking about him during the weeks of streaming him. He has the third QB friendly schedule this season, according to a lot of metrics. I got that from Fantasy Pros. Um, all right, just get right into it. Week 9, he is versus Chicago. That's a good start. Week 10, they are at Minnesota, who's going to have a terrible defense. It's going to be high scoring. Week 13 versus Detroit, another good offense, great offense. I mean, the Saints defense is pretty good, so you should probably draft them and redraft. But side note, but Detroit, another high scoring offense. It's gonna be a high over under game. You're gonna see people streaming Derek Carr those 3 weeks there. So get ahead of it now. Carr is coming off his worst season since he was a rookie. It doesn't concern me because the Raiders are hot garbage, man. They are run terribly. Josh McDaniels is a terrible coach. I'm not intimidated by him. Uh, he threw the ball and he's in the top 5 for deep passes, and that's Olave's bread and butter. Or, I mean, he's in New Orleans, so it's his, spicy shrimp jambalaya. I'm not really sure. I've never been in New Orleans. But Olave, deep and intermediate throws, that's where he's going to get a lot of work with Derek Carr. You got Shaheed there as a deep threat, and then Michael Thomas, who specializes in the slants for underneath. Michael Thomas will give you a few good games underneath. All right. So Carr's deep passes where he's going to make his hay. He's been in the top 5 the past couple seasons. Not as efficient as we'd like, but I think they could fix that in New Orleans. Uh, Plus, he's not having a dominant running back in Josh Jacobs to take away drives. How many times did we see Josh Jacobs get a big run and, all right, drives over? So there takes away some points of Derek Carr. His passing opportunities. That was 340 rushing attempts to Josh Jacobs. Now they got Condre Miller and, Alvin Kamara, who's going on suspension, and Jamal Williams. They're not going to be taken away that much. So he is risky, but I think he might actually be the cheapest with the lowest risk because how he can suck. He can get benched. That's a big risk, but he's young. So people who are managers are like, you know what? I'm going to keep him. And they don't want to give him up. Pickett, same thing, young, potential with all his weapons. So, managers are going to want some higher draft capital for him. Baker could absolutely suck, and I could be totally wrong on my gut feeling that he's going to make a bounce back year. Uh, but he's never right after his torn labrum. So I think a few years removed from it, he can bounce back.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
And Aaron Rodgers, who's, a discount double check out from retiring. So Derek Carr, who has the third friendliest QB schedule, a team that doesn't want to put in Jameis Winston over Andy Dalton, and now he's his backup over Carr, who they brought in, paid money. I don't see him getting benched. So the lowest risk, probably the cheapest when you weigh everything out to get him. I think he's 32 years old by the start of the season. So there it is, takers. That's my QB salvage, yard sale treasures, junk, whatever you want to call this episode. I'm going to have to call it something when I upload it. So let me know your thoughts. Just a tip, FFP. You need me to find a different QB. Those ones aren't available. We can work together. Let me know. Recapping my 5 QBs to go for in order: at number 5, Sam Howell; number 4, Kenny Pickett; number 3, Baker Mayfield; number 2, Aaron Rodgers; and number 1 is Derek Carr, who you are definitely going to hear as a lot of streaming options in redraft this year. Just let them know who you heard it from first. Just a tip: Disfatt Bidge. Your favorite tipper. We all know it. Sorry, Regan. Back to full hard tip episodes. I hope you enjoyed the micro tip here, the quickie tip, the girthy tip, whatever, the chode tip. I don't know. We're getting out of hand right there. Thank you, takers, for taking my tip, and make sure to say hello to your mother for me.